talk about building, we use tools, and the same goes for building our brands. These wellness tools will help elevate your emotional intelligence and help to lead you in a more positive, successful direction in life and in business. Some of these tools you will find helpful today, and some you will grow into. This week's tool is maturity, and why it is important to truly evaluate your levels both in life and in business once I've demonstrated to you that this is an essential tool for your brand. In recent years, there's been a reckoning over the role of social media enabling the spread of fake news and online abuse and feeding of trolls and digital cut purses and the sucker of slake of the craven thirst for attention of billions. The reasons the average person might insult, troll, or criticize others online are pretty easy to figure out. The very act of being recognized at all by a reaction is thrilling for many. It's validation, however pitiful, that you exist. And why do we react to these ego-bruising type comments? It's actually not surprising that sometimes people don't have the cognitive control to maintain composure, particularly if they were, for example, tired, had a drink, or were preoccupied with other stressful things. Many things can deplete our cognitive capacity or lower our cognitive control. Today, we want to develop our maturity to grow bigger than the trolls in emotional intelligence. And like the fairy tale out of Norway, The Three Billy Goats Bluff, which is a cautionary tale that teaches that not all problems have to be solved through immediate action, and that sometimes all you need is to have patience and trust that in time you can overthrow the trolls. In the book, The 5 Personality Patterns, Your Guide to Understanding Yourself and Others and Developing Emotional Maturity by Stephen Kessler, invites you to gain insight into your maturity by looking especially at how you act when you are upset and overwhelmed. Identifying your survival patterns will help you understand what's behind your behavior and how to change it. One of my favorite parts of this book was the concept of looking at the world through the lens of your choice. Your channel, if you will. Are you watching the fear channel or are you watching the love channel? And when you develop maturity, or as the book describes it, your inner witness or the observing self, you understand that when you are present instead of in a pattern, when you observe but do not judge or comment on the experience, you see and hear the real situations around you and respond instead of reacting to them. Other takeaways. Our attention shapes our perception. So developing the maturity to focus our attention away from the things we find disturbing and overwhelming allows us to see only the things that bring us calm and rewards. Our perception shapes our experience of reality. Without maturity, we assume we are experiencing the world as it really is, and we know the whole truth of the situation. With maturity, we understand that our habits of attention shape perceptions, and we can shape our experience of reality as well. Our experience of reality then shapes our beliefs. And since our beliefs are based on our experience, whatever shapes our experiences shapes our beliefs. With maturity, we can construct a whole system of beliefs about the world, creating a core of beliefs based in love, respect, generosity, belonging, kindness, and so on. For a more pragmatic approach and a shortcut to achieving all of the above, there's also the book Emotional Maturity, Discover How to Control Your Emotions and Be More Mature by Charlotte Maloney. And you can find all the scholarly books and peer-reviewed articles mentioned in our program right here at 90.5 FM at WCBE.org, or visit us at tworogues.com for podcasts, behind-the-scenes videos, connect to our socials, or just drop us a line about a guest or a question to me, your host, Bria Greif. How to Achieve Emotional Maturity, Your Path to a Happier, Healthier, and Successful Life by Eric Shawn is a book that addresses, I believe, another important aspect of gaining control of your emotions. Because without emotional maturity, you miss out on opportunities in life. You become exhausted by your own negativity. Your emotions dictate your actions. You walk around with an emotional thunderstorm going on in your head. And that emotional maturity does not mean shutting down either. You'll just stop feeling bad on a daily basis. We can only hope that the leaders and the followers of this brave new media world will grow up fast. In the meantime, we can all do our part by calling out fake news whenever we see it, calling out the trolls whenever we see them, and by demanding thorough examination of every purveyor of online information, because that's the mature thing to do. Caring about people, about things, about life is an act of maturity. And that is a quote by Tracy McMillan, whose screenwriting credits include Mad Men, Necessary Roughness, Chase, Life on Mars, and the United States of Terra. She won the 2010 Writers Guild of America Awards for Dramatic Series for Mad Men. Her most recently published book was I Love You, and I'm Leaving You Anyway, which was a memoir about her relationship with the first man she ever loved, her father, a wildly flamboyant pimp, drug dealer, and convicted felon who spent most of his daughter's life behind bars. Owner and co-founder of North High Brewing, today's guest, earned his MBA in marketing from the Ohio State University Fisher College of Business and has applied his knowledge and love for the craft of beer to take a fledgling microbrewery into a retail entity and event space to be reckoned with on a national scale. Gavin Meyers is leading this charge and is scoring big. Mr. Meyers recently inked a multi-year contract with the NHL team Blue Jackets for branding rights to a club-level bar and a portable concession cart on the main concourse of Nationwide Arena, as well as exclusive rights to produce their Movember fundraising brew, the North High Stick, to landing the rights to produce the Centennial Beer cover crop to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Ohio Farm Bureau, even contributing to craft beer biscuits for dogs by donating their spent Grains, thank you. When Mr. Meyers isn't creating partnerships with businesses, you can find him with his life partner, Sarah Meyers, painting the town and spending quality time with their two sons. Welcome, Mr. Meyers.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Rhea.
Okay, and thank you for helping me out with that.
Yeah.
Was it grains? Is it barley?
Something spent.
Right, something.
They're barley and grains.
There you go. So I'm going to start with the same question that I asked two other brewmasters that came in our show. Lenny Collada from Common House Ales and Eric Bean from Columbus Brew Company. Where's my beer? I thought you guys supposed to bring.
Well, since I just came from the preschool right across the way here and didn't have time to swing by the brewery on the way, I came empty-handed, but I appreciate the bubbly that you brought me.
No problem. Okay, so I want to start out with one of the last things that I mentioned about you in your bio, and it's about your wife and partner, Sarah Meyers. And I know that we all, put out our highlight reels on social media, but, I can't help to get that feeling that, there is a deep and mature relationship and connection there. How does one achieve that kind of relationship maturity, do you think?
Well, I'd say balance is key. Balance in level of maturity. I think anybody that knows my wife and I knows that she's a little bit more the mature one usually in the relationship, even though she's 8 years younger than I am. So I think that was part of the key, was to find somebody who was on the same level. I had no idea when I would end up getting married, and when we did, we met, I was 28 and she was 20. And I think that she really kind of met me where I was, and we've really grown together. And 7 to 8 years later was when I probably felt mature enough that I could handle kids as well. So here we are after 15 years of relationship.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you mentioned about your children, they're preschool age, right?
2 and 4.
Okay. And you probably also are boss to a lot of young adults as well, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So there was an article when I was doing the research for today's program in Psychology Today that discusses how this generation of kids, they may be advanced intellectually, but behind emotionally, and maybe in some cases perhaps even stunted because there's helicopter parents. I know I'm guilty of that a lot. So based on your personal, maybe professional experiences, is there a maturity issue, would you say?
I'd say that I think that the primary issue that we're seeing with young adults today is around face-to-face communication, because there's so much of a kind of that digital barrier between interacting with each other, where people would rather text each other or send each other a Snapchat than actually pick up the phone and talk or have a cup of coffee face-to-face. Unfortunately, I'm finding myself falling victim to that sometimes too, because sometimes it's easier to just
I love texting personally too.
Shoot out the text, and even though the conversation could take care of the same thing in 30 seconds plus some pleasantries, the text message is you can do it in your underwear and kind of proofread it as you go. But I think that's one of the skill sets that I'm seeing diminish is just sort of that one-on-one personality. And in an industry like ours, where we're so customer service and sales driven, we really kind of have to cherry pick for the best of the best in that communication realm.
Gotcha.
And they do seem to be the ones that the ones that succeed with us the most seem to be the ones that can sort of unplug from that digital realm and actually have the meaningful one-on-one interaction with with customers and with friends and with family.
Right, makes sense. Okay, so North High Brewing is described on its website in the many articles that you're mentioned in your various partnerships that in 2011, North High Brewing was born as Columbus's first and only brew on premises establishment and has gone from being one of the smallest breweries in Columbus to being one of the largest. So there was also an article a couple of months ago, and it was citing this growth and that your sales were up 25% last year, and it was with your partner, Tim Ward, who you actually met in business school. And the article says, and this was a quote from him, we realized we needed to focus more on wholesale and change our business model. So how did you both gain so much business maturity in such a short time? And what can you say to those listening who have neophyte businesses as to how they can achieve the maturity necessary to support their growth?
I'd say that our maturity was really delivered sort of through some hard knocks. When we started the business, what you just said, the emphasis was on the experience. We wanted to allow people to come in and brew their own beer. I believe you did.
Yes, I did.
6 years ago.
I did.
And we thought that was really going to be the growth driver for the business. It was certainly what made us unique in what, at the time, 6.5 years ago, it seemed like it was becoming a crowded landscape of breweries because Four String had just opened before us. Seventh Son was getting ready to open. Land grant was in plans, and here we were. There were single-digit number of breweries, and we're kind of trying to race to the starting line. And here's our differentiator. It's going to be that our customers can come in and have the hands-on experience of brewing beer. I'm a fanatic for experiences, and I thought, okay, this we're really going to tap into this unmet demand here in Central Ohio. And then, as soon as we opened, what we really found was that the local restaurants and bars had a really unmet demand for locally made, high-quality, small batch beers. So we started wholesaling and very quickly ran out of space because the demand was that high.
Wow.
And that was when we decided to really shift towards the production side, and we downsized the brew on premise where the customers brew, which is still a fun, profitable thing that we do. But we've limited the growth of that in favor of the growth of what we're really focusing on, which is wholesale and also events. So we're doing a lot more events in that the brew space. It's a lot more friendly for corporate fundraising and team building and bachelor parties and things like that our customers like to use that space for. But really, it took paying attention to the market, listening to our customers being the wholesale customers, being Kroger, being various different customers, telling us that we weren't necessarily who we thought we were going to be, and to shift the resources. And I think that there was a little bit of resistance to that in the beginning, certainly on my part.
Sure.
I think Tim was really the one that wanted to embrace the wholesale, and we really did. We shifted gears, and it took some humility.
Sure.
And with humility comes maturity.
Yes, right.
To really venture down a new path. But
that is one of the markers of maturity is humility, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I don't doubt it. I've been humbled many times in my life, but another key to a successful marriage is to humble yourself to your wife.
Yes.
And with that comes success. But, we thought it was crowded back then. We were the 7th, and now there's 52 breweries in Central Ohio.
Right.
That's just in 6.5 years.
Right. And Cheryl Harrison was also a guest on the show from Drink Up
Cheryl's
Columbus.
great,
Yeah, she said the same thing. It was like, there's like so very few of them, and then just suddenly it's like boom, 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 boom. It was incredible. And I think the important points that you're saying for business and people who are just starting out is listen to your customers. Like, even though you had this vision, this is my dream, this is what I want to do. If your customers say, we need this, we want this, even though you love this idea, maybe you don't have to give it up maybe completely, but you can just like scale it down and work towards where it, and then maybe revisit it later, right?
Yep.
Who knows? But the idea is to stay in business.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So when I was at a holiday party at your tap room, do you call it, is that the tap room?
That internally we call it the tap room of the brewery. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And it was another one of our past cast, Autumn Theodore. You were kind enough to show my kiddos your machines, which don't bottle anymore, right? You use cans instead. So tell us about the maturity used there. Was it an economic one? Is it about environmental impact awareness that led to this course change?
Yeah, the great thing about the decision to go with cans as opposed to bottles was that it checked all the boxes for us. We knew that we were going to make a tremendous investment in some type of a piece of equipment. This was about 6 years ago that we first started looking into the potential of bottling or canning our beer. And at the time, there were only a few microbreweries out there that were canning their beer. The most notable that sort of started the craze was Oscar Blues. And, they make Dale's Pale as, kind of their flagship brand. And, once that started kind of picking up speed and we started seeing other very highly respected microbreweries going with cans, we thought, okay, why are they going with cans? And then we come to find out that, cans are a better fat package for the beer. They keep the beer fresher longer.
Yeah.
They protect the beer from light, which skunks beer, and they protect the beer better from air, which oxidizes and makes your beer taste like cardboard.
Yeah.
And then add to that the environmental effects. They use fewer resources. They are much lighter weight. They don't shatter when you drop them, so retailers prefer them. There was kind of a stigma that was attached to beer for a long time where cheap beer was the beer that came in cans.
Right.
But really, I think what that's tied to is that when you're young and in school, the beer that you gravitate toward is the cheap beer,
Right.
and that happens to
Natty
be in
Light
cans.
all the
So
way,
you're buying
right.
an $18 case of beer, and you just associate that cheap beer with the can. But as the technology has progressed, and as the recyclability of cans has improved, so now the great thing about aluminum is it re-enters the recycling stream at a 1-to-1 rate. It's just completely recyclable. Whereas
I did not know
glass
that.
has to be blended in at about a rate of about 30%. This is something I just learned from our partner in Brewmaster, Jason, recently.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So it's more recyclable, uses less resources, and we also we can print on the entire area of a can as opposed to just the label area of a bottle. So it's better for us for marketing. There's really also they're more mobile. Take them to the pool.
Yeah.
Take them camping.
Right, that's true.
Shotgunning.
Yes.
So
right.
immaturity might have played in a little bit as well, but
I love it.
but at the end of the day, we definitely determined that cans were the right way to go for the business.
Right.
And they happen to be cheaper.
Right, they are. Right,
So-
they are to produce them,
Yes.
to get them.
Yep.
Okay, and then you were also probably able to pass some of that savings on to your consumer as well. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
We would be able to, but we don't.
Okay, good for
Yes.
you. Good for
We
you.
maintain line
Maturity.
pricing
That's
across
smart.
the board.
That's smart. So you also recently spoke about celebrating our failures, and it was you were a guest speaker at the Haven,
Right.
and that their kind of philosophy was about keeping failures hidden in a dark place perpetuates the stigma that failure is humiliating and something to feel guilty about. And earlier you mentioned something about the School of Hard Knocks. What kind of maturity does failure actually bring? And can you give us an example from your professional life about something about that Hard Knocks?
Yeah, absolutely. So we about a year and a half ago had an issue with one of our yeast strains that sort of went a little bit haywire, and we were making Hefeweizen. We were one of the few local breweries that were making Hefeweizen, so we had a really good market penetration with it. A lot of customers really liked our Hefeweizen. It was a unique style though, because Hefeweizen by itself doesn't tell you what it is. It's a wheat beer, but you've really kind of got to read the description to know that it's got notes of banana. And some people that sort of weirds them out.
Yeah.
Who's putting banana in the beer? It's not from bananas. It's from the yeast.
Right.
And the Hefeweizen yeast is a very unique strain of yeast. And breweries throughout the country that were getting this yeast from this major international yeast supplier were having the yeast do things that we didn't like it to do, and it was resulting in a product that we weren't happy with. And we didn't realize it until some of it was in the market. So we had to go out, we had to repurchase that beer, bring it back in. And along the way, we ended up having to dump a few batches of beer as we were making it before we determined that it was actually
And
the yeast
when
that
you're
was
saying
causing the
batches,
problem.
I know people think this, but we're
Right.
talking like,
Yeah,
right.
we're talking $30,000
Right,
of beer in
right,
a dump.
right.
And so that was, it was a real learning experience for us, and we had to look internally and say, okay, is this a beer how important is this to us to maintain this style? Certainly our quality is more important than any one of our styles that we're producing out of 20 to 30 that we'll make in a year. So we pulled the plug knowing that we would lose some accounts because there were accounts that had that Hefeweizen as a permanent handle for 2, 3, 4 years.
Wow.
And but we offered him 2 great solutions in return,
Yeah.
both of which well, certainly one of which, the honey wheat, is what it says it is. So there's no education required. And then Life, which is a rebrand of a sparkling ale that we've been making. So, so we offered them, and we were able to retain most of those customers. And I think that even our most vocal minority of consumers were pleased with the replacements as well.
Okay, good. And it's just interesting, like, it's like if somebody drinks that beer and they have a bad experience and they have a bad idea about the whole brand, and you learned it the hard way, but at least you were smart enough to say, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make this course correction.
Yep. Take it on the chin and eat the cost, and in every customer that reached out to us that had a negative experience with that, we dealt with them one-on-one. Send them a T-shirt, offer them a free tour if they live locally. But we were able to really kind of win everybody over with that transition.
Nice. You're also supportive of other masters of their craft, whether it be artist Stephanie Rond and her latest illustration for your Break On Through beer, which is so cute with the cat with the helmet.
Dory and the helmet.
So cute. And also Chef Sonny, is it Peish?
Sonny Peishi, yeah.
Peishi, who's the new Del Mar SoCal kitchen chef.
Yep.
Surely maturity tells us that creating partnerships and relationships is not only good for business, but it's also good for the soul, right? And in fact, it's how North High Brewing started by forming your partnership with Tim Ward when you guys were both in college. Was this a maturity you always had?
I think that one of my skill sets since childhood has been relationship building. I think that the friendships that I've kept have definitely outkicked the coverage of my intellect. The guy that was best man at my wedding was valedictorian of my class. I was nowhere near that. So I was always the guy, judge me based on the company that I keep. I ran in a really good crowd. Jason McKibben's a great example of that, because Jason and I met each other freshman year in college. He went to University of Illinois and was roommates with one of my best friends from high school from here, and we just stayed in each other's pocket, and when Tim and I were getting ready to open, we wanted to hire Jason, and he didn't want to scale down from being senior brewmaster at Anheuser-Busch to being brewmaster at a very tiny nano brewery that his friend was starting up.
Yeah.
So he wisely turned us down, moved to the West Coast, but as a parting gift, took with him one of my wife's best friends, who is now his wife.
Oh, how cute!
And so nurturing that friendship over time and maintaining that friendship while he was in San Francisco. When Tim and I went to expand, we said, okay, now the time is right. What would it take for you to?
And he was a brewmaster at Anchor Brewing Company.
He was running Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco.
That's big.
It's huge,
Yeah.
and talk about respect and credibility. So he joined us as a partner, and he's been with us for next month. Will be 5 years that he's been with us.
I'm sure his wife was happy to come home too.
Happy to come home. It's a lot cheaper. She was pregnant with our first at the time.
Perfect.
And so yeah, definitely maintaining relationships. You've got Stephanie around, who lives a few houses down from me. We just hit the neighbor lottery when it came to moving in down the street from her, and she's been a great neighbor. And when it came time to creating the fourth in our quarterly series of double IPAs, I said we just want to give you the description. It's Break On Through, it's doors themed, and go. And she looked at our past can designs and used her trademark stencil style and knocked it out of the park. It's just a really great can design. It's
amazing. It is really amazing. And where can someone find out details about how, to go to your tap room and, find out what retail stores are carrying your beers?
Yep. So if you're interested in finding a store locally that carries our beer, just go to any of the big chains, Giant Eagle, Kroger. If you like the smaller boutique shops, we're in Wylands and Lucky's and all the craft beer carryouts. If you're interested in getting information about brewing beer with us, just head to our website, which is northhighbrewing.com. Click on the tab that says Brew Your Own. It answers any question that you could ever have about it. The skinny on that one is it takes 3 hours to brew 15 gallons of beer. You come back 3 weeks later, you take home 6 cases. It's under $300.
I love it. And then what about holding events, just like bachelor parties and corporate events at your space? Absolutely.
You can either do that with or without brewing your own batch of beer. We've got the space on High Street that can accommodate 60 to 100 people. If in an event setting, and then our Cleveland Avenue location, as we had with Autumn's event, we I think we had about 100, 150 at her event. We've had upwards of of 400
Nice.
at particular events. My favorite was my 20-year high school reunion, which was 5 years ago. We hosted at the brewery. That was a lot of fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
And then again, they can get that from northhighbrewing.com.
Yeah, they can just shoot me an email directly at Gavin at northhighbrewing.com.
Okay, awesome. So there was actually an article published today in Brewbound. And that's the leading industry trade publication providing comprehensive information about the beer space, about how the boom, they had said this at this conference, the boom of the craft beer is dead as consumers are looking for healthy beverages with alcohol. I mean, that's kind of like an oxymoron, and products are being created and marketed towards wellness-minded consumers who count calories and scrutinize nutrition labels. And as a mature businessman, which you are, and I'm sure you guys are working on something, can we expect to see something new and different in the future?
So we're always looking for trends, not fads, and we're always a little bit hesitant to jump onto any I don't want to call it a bandwagon, but on any emerging trend too quickly, because sometimes you can invest a tremendous amount of resources and divert those resources from more core activities like our IPAs and things like that. But here I sit holding a bubbly, which is 0 calories and 0 carbohydrates, and it's delicious.
Right.
And we're seeing more and more demand in the market for the Trulies and the White Claws and just the hard seltzers. Now, to your point, which is the craft beer boom is dead. Growth is still happening. Growth has slowed, and there certainly is probably going to be some type of a saturation point of the number of breweries that are going to open up in any given market. But what we're really talking about is the share of throat, right? And what we're taking away from is not necessarily going to be so much of the health conscious consumer. It's going to be, we're seeing our growth coming from and outpacing regional breweries. So where a lot of the growth was taking place 10 years ago for like Lagunitas and Founders and these big regional breweries and national breweries, their growth has really started to slow as ours has accelerated. So we're getting a bigger piece of a more local and regionally conscious consumer who don't mind drinking one pale ale instead of 2 Trulies because it's got the same alcohol content.
Right, and I think that's a very mature business thing to say. It's like, well, we're not just going to jump into, we don't want to dilute, we're going to really take a look at what the customers are wanting. So that's really, really great advice.
And we're seeing some other breweries jump right in and make hard seltzers. And it's not to say that we won't ever make one, but for the time being, we've got our hands full enough with what we're doing that we figure we'll kind of take a wait and see approach to that one.
Yeah.
Certain styles when they come out, we want to make one right away because we're passionate about it too, like New England IPAs and things like that. But other trends, we want to see what kind of legs they've got.
Sure. And do you have a new product that's coming out in the market that we haven't seen yet?
Well, I would say that for the health conscious consumer, really, if you're looking at craft beer and you want to stay low carb, just look for the beers with the lower alcohol. And the cover crop that you mentioned is going to be our lowest carbohydrate beer that we've got right now, primarily because it's got fewer sugars leading to fewer lower alcohol.
Right.
So 4.5%, you're probably looking at south of 15 grams of carbohydrates. You contrast that with maybe our Russian Imperial Stout, you might be looking at closer to 40 or 50.
Right.
So,
and people don't get that, like when the skinny margaritas came out, it's just less alcohol. It's just more diluted. It's like, come on.
Yes, Bud and Bud Light. What is the difference?
Exactly.
Water.
It's exactly, totally. Okay, so we talked about this earlier. Last 5 years ago, our mutual friend Phil and I came into your store. We made our own beer. We bottled it at the time, but now it's canned. So I have the label still, and I was told that you guys keep those recipes in file. Do you actually do that?
We would actually have the copy of your recipe in a file someplace. It's it might be in fireproof storage by now, but
okay.
But yeah, we maintain the records, and I don't remember if you guys did your own recipe or if you followed one of ours.
No, I did my own.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's called the Black Card. I have it. Yeah. I still have it. Everything. Okay, fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw the label that you sent. You sent today. That's great.
Good.
It's a good looking label.
Yeah, it is good. Thank you. But you guys helped me do all that. Thanks for coming on our show, and I can't wait to come back to see you guys again. And I'm everyone who's listening, you have to go check out that space. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to have a good time in.
Great, yeah. Our tap room's there at 6th and High. What people should know who are afraid of coming to the Short North because parking and construction and everything, we have our own parking lot. So we're right next door to the Kroger on 6th and High, and our parking lot is behind the Kroger. So you can find that and park for free in the Short North and drink some award-winning beers.
That's worth its weight in gold. I didn't even know that. Thanks for coming out
Thank
today.
you, Rhea.